and everyone's got an opinion. Whether it's right or wrong, there's no right or wrong answers, there's just opinions. And I guarantee in this room, everyone's got a different favourite film, everyone's got a different favourite Bond, or everyone's going to have their own opinion, which is great. So, we are going to have a Bond chit chat and just go through a few things. So, what we're going to do, me and Nick will get the topic up, we'll give our opinion, then we'll open it out to the floor and we'll try to get a few opinions. I don't know where Pete's gone, I don't know if he's still here with his mic, but I think he's
It's
gone. That's answered that question. So what we're going to do, we're going to try and do this as best we can. I don't know if I can drag this out here, I don't know, we'll see what I can do. So, first topic. What do you think is the most effective gadget? There's loads of gadgets in the Bond films, some really cool ones in the golden era Bond. So Nick, what do you think is the most effective gadget?
Thinking about this, I think there's a few, but I would like to go for the Bond's watch in Live and Let Die, where he cuts the rope with a spinning watch, with a spinning watch bezel.
Yeah.
Just cut the rope, which was able to escape with solitaire over the shark tank, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. For me, it would have to be. It's a bit controversial because people say, oh, it's a car, not a gadget, but there's gadgets in the car. There's the Goldfinger DB5, the Aston Martin, because that is so cool, isn't it? You've got the ejector seat, you've got the oil slick, and when you watch that on the film, I mean, I wasn't around in the 60s, I don't look that good. But yeah, if you were around in the 60s, that must have been absolutely amazing to see something like that when you've never seen nothing like that before. I just think it's an incredible piece of filmmaking because they filmed that car chase in 3 or 4 separate locations and very small areas where they shot it for a few seconds and then went to a completely different location.
And then reversed the angle too, especially in Black Park on one particular crossroads where they did it from one angle and shot it from another, then it looked like it was one continuous road.
Yeah. So let's open it out. Let's see anyone want to put a hand up, and we'll try and get your opinions out. So what's their most effective gadget?
I think my favourite's got to be the gadgets, the emergency spot in Lovely.
Oh yes.
That scene, especially in the mid to late 70s, the ingenuity of doing that, and the cargo underwater, and all the bits and pieces of the cargo opening out, and the ties closing in, and I thought that was genius.
And the final part of that scene where the button press with the torpedo into the helicopter.
I mean, that's half of it as well, isn't it? When you look at the older Bond films, you appreciate it more because the technology wasn't there and they're always ahead of the times. When you get to now, you go, where do you go with gadgets? Where do you go with the technology? Because we're so far more advanced now. How can you go even further? You'd be teleporting or something crazy like that. So there's a limit to what you can do.
And also, can I just add, also adding to that is at that time there was no internet, no Wi-Fi, no smartphones. So the creativity of these people that were involved in making the film, you just think that's absolutely great.
And that's one of the things about the Q Lab, which I think the 60s and 70s Q Labs are really cool because you've got all these different ingenious ideas that were just well ahead of their time, well before anything that we even knew. And I mean, like Octopus, he had the watch with the TV, and now it's second to nature, isn't it? Now we're talking through watches and all sorts. So it's really clever back then what they did. Anyone else got any good gadgets that they like? You think, Nigel, you got anything over there?
Moonraker wrist darker.
Wrist darker, Moonraker? Yeah, well, that got him out of trouble because that would have been the end of him, wouldn't it? That would have been it. So it's amazing how all of a sudden the gadget he gets at the start of the film, he finds a use to escape. I mean, that's another interesting point. Right, let's move on to the next topic.
Okay, so here we have what is the most iconic Bond location to visit? So this could be a city, a town, actual physical, maybe a door in the wall. For me, I think actually Venice is quite a good location, pretty iconic in a couple of films, obviously Moonraker, and more recently, well not recently, it's nearly 20 years old now, Casino Royale with Daniel Craig, the end part with Vesper.
Yeah.
So that's quite a good location. How about you, Matt?
Well, I would say, I haven't been to this location, but I would say probably there's two that I think at the top of anyone's list. Some of you may have been there, I know a few of you have been there. So one of them I would say is Piz Gloria, because that is just a big part of Honor Majesty's Secret Service, and we're going to give a mention to Terry Mountain, who was in that film, sitting right in front here. So that was a really iconic one. If you've got a chance to get up there, definitely go and do it, because it's just one of those. It hasn't really changed from the filming, so you can see everything pretty much still there. And also another one I would say is probably GoldenEye itself, where Ian Fleming, wrote the books and things like that. I think it's a lot more exclusive to go to. It probably cost a lot of money to go there, but I think it's one of those places that to step in the footsteps of Fleming and to see how it all began with the ideas. I think that must be a pretty cool thing to do.
And also in Jamaica, Matt, you have obviously the waterfall from Dr. Mary on Chorrillos, and then in the north side of the island near Montego Bay you have Falmouth, which is where the crocodile farm was in Little Eye, which you can also visit, I believe.
Yeah.
And just be careful, trespassers will be using
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else got a really good Bond location that they visited, or number one? Yeah.
Istanbul.
Istanbul, perfect.
Of course, yeah.
Beautiful place. Dozens and dozens of Bond things
Yeah.
that have been there for 50 years and they're still there. They haven't changed very much.
Yeah.
So it's a really good place to go for a few days. We went last year and enjoyed every second.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Did you do any locations yourself, Bond locations when you were down there?
Just a few,
Just a few, there we go.
both of the mosques, the Galata Tower, Palace, what was the other one? The World Is Not Enough.
Maiden's Tower?
Maiden's Tower,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's lots and lots to
Lots
see
to
and
do.
do, and you can fit in stuff that's not Bond related. So if you want to go with your other half,
Yeah.
they can be quite happy as
It's
well.
fantastic location.
Yeah. Did your other half know that you were doing Bond locations, or did you have to shoehorn that in? So, this is a lovely looking mosque.
Oh, we knew it.
Oh, you know. Yeah. You've got to be upfront from the off.
Corfu's another one.
Corfu,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
for your eyes
Corfu,
only.
yeah.
Yeah.
Back in this year.
And there's Spiros's Cafe, I think, where obviously outside there, Roger Moore's car went upside down. The guy there is very good. He has a lot of fans going there. So if you're ever in Corfu, go to the cafe, check it out. It's really good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
He sat in the chair.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah. He's actually got a sign, hasn't he? Roger Moore sat here, so he's got that famous chair. It's got to be done. That's the iconic tourist picture, isn't it?
Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, brilliant. Good to hear your views on that. Thank you. Anyone else got any locations yet?
I like casino in Montenegro, in Casino Royal.
Yeah.
Beautiful area.
Oh, lovely, yeah.
Terrific, yeah. Not probably as glamorous as some, but nice to see.
Yeah, no, there's only one place I think I'd like to see in the Bond film. That's Australia, because he hasn't been to Australia.
That's right.
And you think it's such a beautiful country. Why hasn't he? It's probably because it'd be expensive to shoot there. Is the only thing I could think of, to get everybody over there. And to shoot in Australia would be quite expensive. But I think if you're going to start the new Bond, I put my money on that he's going to Australia. Because they want to start something bold, something that hasn't been done before, and that would be the ideal starting point.
Probably involved in the Sydney Opera House, that's a perfect
Yeah.
thing to slide down, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
Like
exactly.
World Is Not Enough on the O2.
Yeah, yeah. As long as they don't try and blow it up, I think we'll be all right with it. Nigel, over there? Yeah, Mean Valley Peterborough, where there was an Octopussy event last year. So yeah, really good. And are the trains and carts still the original ones as well?
And what
Yeah,
about
this
here,
is
of
all.
course?
Can't forget this place.
5-minute walk up the road, you're back in, you're in San Francisco.
Definitely. Who's done the mine and seen the carts today? Has anyone not done that yet? Make sure you get a picture of the mines and things like that. Yeah, there are original ones as well. Now, if you look at the train they've got out there, the one that drives along, there's Oil Industries logo. That's just a flip thing that they've just created, so that's not original. But the cart, on the carts, they actually are original, aren't they? So this one's an interesting topic. I like this one. The next one coming up, very controversial. Everyone will go, oh, it divides a lot of people. So, next one. Should Pierce Brosnan have done a fifth film? So after Die Another Day, is that it, or should he have come back and just done something a lot better than that?
Yeah.
I mean, my views are that, you know, I mean, I remember seeing Die Another Day, actually. That's the first film I saw at the cinema. I was only a teenager then. And I was like, seeing a Bond film at the cinema was just amazing, you know. Even though couldn't even expect how dire it was, I just thought, wow, it's just amazing to see a Bond film at the cinema. So after that you think, yeah, you're just going to get another film, and then they completely change it. So I think it would have been nice to have done a kind of Skyfall style Bond film, so he, you know, kills off Judi Dench, so then you've got that reset again. I think that would have been a nice way to end his era. What's your opinion there?
Yeah, I think I was going to add on to that. I agree as well. Yeah, fifth film for him would have been good, especially with Die Another Day having a little bit too much CGI perhaps in it. There was a few scenes which a lot of people think that up to the ice chase, it was pretty good, and after that it kind of went downhill a bit. But I think a definite fifth one would have been good for him.
Yeah, definitely. And
Well, then we may not have got Daniel Craig then, you see.
well, that's true. Swings and roundabouts. Yeah, exactly. I mean, another thing to go on that one as well, John Richardson, who should have been here today, he sends his apologies. He had a nasty fall, so he's back, so he's unable to drive up here. He obviously done the special effects for this film and a lot of other Bond films, Moonmaker, Superman, Aliens, you name it, he's pretty much done it. And he said about working on this film, it was just too much CGI, not enough. They used to work with models a lot, so they used to use models and they created these incredible scenes, sceneries and models, and they did all these explosions.
Derek Beddings and Brian Smith has been one of the two key model makers in the Bond films.
And I think that kind of bit style of filmmaking is slightly going up, but you couldn't notice things on model. You just don't realise they are models until you close up. The only ones you can notice, obviously, if you watch Thunderbirds, the old 60s series, they kind of stand out in high definition nowadays. But I mean, it's incredible what these guys did, and it's just a shame that kind of it's just computer generated, and you can tell it's fake straight away. So, what's your opinion? Should Pearson made a fifth Bond film? What's the general consensus here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the reason behind that?
Well, like you say, I mean, Die Another Day turned into a bit of an unrealistic CGI fest towards the end. Is that all like planes standing on a shooting?
Well, there's surfboarding on the tsunami,
it's all
or
bit-
surf gliding.
So yeah, it would be nice to see another one.
I mean, there's some good bits about the film. I would say that the pre-title sequence is pretty amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah.
The stunts with the hovercraft out of the shot, things like that. There's some good bits about the film. Just tends to go a little bit crazy. I think the surfboarding does a lot. The kite surfing, the sliding off the ice,
Yes,
which really does it, I think. But yeah, anybody else? Any opinions on that? Oh, we'll move swiftly on. So what's next then?
Top 5 title themes,
Ah, yes.
theme songs.
Songs.
So I think I could actually kick off with the Main 007 theme, to be honest. Pretty iconic. Monty Norman, John Barry. Although there's a court case over John Barry and the theme, so we'll discuss over that. But yeah, I mean, that's very iconic. All films.
Is that your top one then?
I think so, yeah. If you go for a song, I reckon View to a Kill.
Yeah.
Pretty bombastic sounding song, very good 80s theme feel to it, regularly heard on the radio as well, which you don't actually hear many of the others, to be honest. So,
That's true.
So that'll be my one. How about you, Matt?
Top 5 is a tough one because there's been so many great themes over the years. This is just in any order. So I'm going to say You Only Live Twice. I think it's really beautiful, that whole melody, the background as well. The soundtrack is incredible. John Barry really captures the Oriental theme with that. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, that is a really good theme, amazing, very bombastic, and I think you could put that theme in the modern era and it would work. And
It would, because snippets from that would be able to be played throughout.
because you've got it in No Time to Die, a little snippet of that reworked, and it still works so well. It's such a timeless piece, so that's one of them. Thunderball, I think it's really cool, the lyrics to that. Tom Jones gives a great performance on that
I
one.
must have an honourable mention to Chris Cornell, Do You Know My Name, on
Yeah.
Casino Royale, 2006, so yeah, I think that's a great tune as well.
But my favourite one has got to be Live and Let Die. I just think the whole instrumental, the whole lyrics, everything about it, it's just Bond. It's
Produced by George Martin as well.
yeah, bit of Beatles there,
Yeah.
actually, with Paul McCartney as
Indeed,
well.
yeah.
So, anyone got, what are your top 5 Bond themes? Or top theme? What are your top
Surrender.
themes? Oh, look at that,
look at
fantastic.
that, yeah.
So you know what, I think that would have made a really good theme. I do like the main theme for Tomorrow Never Dies, but I think that is a fantastic theme. And the instrumental on that, the kind of sort of jazzy style as well, really would work. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
Yeah, my favourite is Moonraker.
Moonraker,
Oh yes, yeah. The normal one or the disco version?
The normal.
The normal
Normal
one.
one.
The whole of John Barry's
Sure.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with a bit of Barry. That is
Also,
definitely-
interesting about Moonraker's soundtrack is that what you can get on the CD or the vinyl that's all that's available. Allegedly, the master copies got burnt in a fire years ago, apparently. So there's no chance of getting any extra because we obviously get expanded versions of the soundtracks. With Moonraker, that's it. And also in Moonraker, it was actually going to be a double vinyl album back in the day. There was going to be enough material for a double vinyl, so that would have been the first gatefold soundtrack available for Bond. Sadly not.
Yeah, I
Didn't
mean,
happen.
we're getting a few more releases now. The more modern Bond films, obviously, if you go on, what's that website? La La Land?
La La Land, yes.
Yeah, so they've been doing the expanded soundtrack. So Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, Die Another Day have got all of their kind of pieces released now, which were unreleased a few years ago. Now they've all been released.
Especially this year, was it Octopussy and...
Yeah,
Living
Octopussy
Let
and Living Let Die.
Die was
Yeah,
released.
and they're amazing. They've remastered them. They put every single cue on their track, even ones that are unreleased, and they're really good to listen to. So I'd recommend that. If you go on their website, you can get really good soundtracks from there. Right, the next one. This one's an interesting one. So which villain do you think was the most effective? It's a tough one because, you know, you've got some villains who just don't really do much, do they, really?
Just sort of kind of sits in the background and let the henchmen do all the work.
Yeah. And then you've got some who are really deadly and dastardly. Zoran, I think, was a great villain. I thought he was terrific in A View to a Kill. Chris Walken really pulled me on. And actually, a lot of people say it's not a great film, but I tell you what makes the film is Chris Walken absolutely chews up the scenery with that film. Because all the one-liners spits out.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
It's really good. So, what villain do you think was the most effective?
I reckon Auric Goldfinger was pretty effective. Although he did lose to Bond on the golf course, but then he almost managed to, he infiltrated Fort Knox and nearly got away with it. But he was, he got sucked out of the plane at the end of the film, so he managed to do a good job, I think.
Yeah, I would go with that as well, but purely because with that one, and Goldfinger is an interesting film, 60th anniversary, but it was really the only Bond film where the villain actually nearly gets away with it, because Bond doesn't actually do anything. He goes there, gets captured.
He's captured all the way to the
That's
end.
it. Yeah, he fouls really miserably, doesn't he? And that's what makes it even better, because Connery's trying to get one step ahead and he can't. He's always behind Goldfinger, and he's just, Jet Fro did an absolutely phenomenal job. And obviously the people that dubbed him as well and dubbed the other actors and actresses in the film deserve a mention, because there's an art to that. Normal Monster, we had our event who won the Oscar for Goldfinger for the sound editing, did Odd Job's Hat, and he told us how he created these sounds, and a lot of effort went into this, and it's incredible what they did with a recorder and trying to create these sounds just to make the film a little bit more elevated. And I think that is a skill that you don't see nowadays, because you just push a button and the sound's there. They had to literally physically go and create these sounds.
Go and create sounds as well, yeah.
So let's open it up. Which film do you think was the most effective and why? Anyone got any ones?
I liked Hugo Drax.
Sorry?
Hugo Drax.
Oh,
Hugo Drax,
yeah,
He
that's a good one,
just had
yeah.
that look.
Yeah. And he offers team sandwiches, so doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Cucumber sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. But if a villain offered you food, you wouldn't eat it, would you? It's common sense, that.
But it was an easy kill in the end, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit too
over
easy.
the table.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was strong there.
Oh, sorry, that's...
He was in space, wasn't he?
Don't get Bond wrong.
There we go, don't get that wrong. Testing. Someone said Jaws over here?
Yeah, they brought him back. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an
he
interesting
was kind
one.
of just there, wasn't he? But
I mean, he's one of the most iconic henchmen you can get, isn't he, Jaws? And Richard Kill, who played him, was an absolutely terrific guy. Sadly, no longer with us, but he was brilliant. And just to get someone taller than Roger Moore must have been hard work.
and they were good friends as well.
And they were great friends, yeah,
They were
definitely.
friends.
I mean, on Moonmaker, we had a panel of Moonmaker from last week. We did an event, and we actually had a picture from the football match. So the British crew and the French crew played a football match during Moonmaker, and the British crew lost the first game, so they put Jaws in goal the second game and won 6-1. So yeah, you can imagine the success there. So they brought him in as a ringer and it worked. But no, he was great. And the great thing about it was he actually retired, kind of, didn't he? Because he was with Dolly at the end of the film, and they made it safely back to Earth, and that was it. And that was the end of it. And when I met Richard in 2010, a few years before he passed away, I asked him. I said, if you could go back and do another one, how would you like to be? Where would Jaws be right now? And he goes, you know what? I would like Jaws to be sort of sitting at home with Dolly, got a few kids, and then Bond's running in the shopping mall, and all of a sudden I put my foot out and I trip over some of the henchmen, and I just put my thumbs up. And I thought, oh yeah, that would have been amazing. But you know, so that's basically what he told me a few years ago. So
Very interesting. Also, with Jaws, one of the very few henchmen that helped Bond out in the end as well.
yeah, well, I think he realised obviously the perfect civilization, he was not going to be a part of it because he's kind of wasn't he? So yeah. Anyone else got an effective villain?
Scaramanga?
Scaramanga,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a really good one. Scaramanga. Yeah, and he was very much Bond's double, wasn't
He was Bond.
he? Yeah, pretty much.
When Ian Fleming wrote
Yeah,
that,
yeah, that's
he
true.
was-
Yeah.
Christopher Lee was
Yeah.
the man that was involved in his head.
Yeah,
So.
he wanted him involved in the song process,
Yeah.
and that was. But I think he played the villain so well.
Well, they
he's
were
just a
cousins,
great
weren't
actor.
they?
Sorry,
They were cousins.
they were cousins.
Yes,
yeah,
they were,
yeah.
yeah.
So it was inevitable, really, that for him to have some involvement. But yeah, no, yeah, and he's just class.
He did the thing that you said earlier, he fed Bond and Bond still ate and drank
Yeah.
despite everything.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's the classy thing. I mean, I think Roger Moore gets away with that, doesn't he?
Just a bit.
I wonder if he shoehorned the free lunch into this, because he's got cucumber sandwiches in there, he's got the nice grill and champagne in that one, he's doing alright, Roger, he did alright. He didn't get to drive an Aston Martin, did he, until
No.
Cannonball Run, but it's one of those things. So we move on to the next one, Nick.
So,
Talk about Roger.
okay, so with Roger, do you think he made one or two films too many? Personally, probably yes. However, what we got actually with View to a Kill, I think is quite an outstanding film. I think it surpasses Octopussy, but I think the majority feel that he was just one more, maybe one more too many. But I think at View to a Kill, we got him on that, and that was it. It was time to move on, time to roll in a new Bond, a slightly new direction, and I think we got that with Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
Matt?
It's always a tough one, because I wasn't alive when this era was happening, unfortunately. So it's kind of, you just going and based on what your gut feeling is. And I would say, it's like anything, base it on Daniel Craig now. He's been in the role for the longest person in the role, even though he's only done 5 films. It took him 20 plus years to do 5 films, which is not a lot really when you think about it. And Roger did 7 in, what was that? 73, 85, 12 years?
12 years.
12 years, done 7 films, so just goes to show how many films you can produce. So I think after a while it's natural that you're just going to go, you know what, we want change. It's the same with everything, isn't it? After a while it's too samey, you want, and you always think there's something better around the corner. That's the great thing, you always think, oh, you know what, actually, wouldn't it be so much better without this? We can change it a bit. So I think, I'll go back to, we had John Glenn at one of our events 2 years ago, and he said, when he made For Your Eyes Only, he got the job of that. He said that Cubby told John that he's auditioning for new Bonds. He said, we're going to audition for a new Bond, and that was to make sure that Roger's money didn't go up. Because he obviously been Bond for a long time, so he thought, well, if he's auditioning new Bond, he might just settle for less money. And Roger wasn't too happy with John because he thought he had a hand in it and he had to explain later on. But they were really good friends anyway. But yeah, so it just goes to show it was one of those. Cubby loved Roger, and I think, you know, without his error, I don't think we would have been here today, because a tough act to follow Sean. Obviously, George Lazenby did it. He did it for one film, and then Sean came back. And it's like, where do you go once Sean goes again? And I think Roger Moore was born to play well. You know, he played the same.
Persuaders as well. Tony Curtis.
I think through the 70s, I don't think you can pick a better Bond really. To get us through the 70s, I think it was the ideal selection. I think possibly went on for a bit too long. I think when you're nearly 60, you know, trying to...
Yeah, he was 57, wasn't he?
Exactly. And when the Bond girls become granddaughters to you, it's a bit of a iffy subject, that one.
I believe he was almost older than Stacey's mum.
He was, yeah. Which was quite crazy in the fact. But on the flip side, could anyone else, could Timothy Dalton done A View to a Kill? I don't think it would have been the same. You know, especially obviously with Roger and obviously we've got Bond and Tigger. Their gentlemanly exchanges and their conversations. I think that worked really well with them two as well. But
I don't think
another two, I really don't think so, because Tim was more of a darker Bond, so I don't think that would have fit his style. What does everyone think? Did Roger outstay his welcome, or do you think it was just enough? What's your thoughts?
Just enough.
Just enough. Yeah.
It was the first one I saw in the cinema as a kid, so it would always be like my favourite. So.
What, The Future Again?
Yeah, so
that's a great film.
So yeah, I get he was, you know, but when I was that young, I didn't really know about if he was too old or not. You know.
Yeah, no, you should watch the films.
I like it. It's a good film. Like, yeah, I think in hindsight, that was the end.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else got an opinion?
I think he should have gone for one more. I think
Yeah.
instead of going out from A View to a Kill, which he didn't like himself,
Yeah.
I think he should have gone out in the living daylights or something. But that's my opinion, because he
Yeah.
didn't, I don't think he got us through exactly what you're saying, 70s and the 80s. Yeah, okay, you're saying about long in the tooth or whatever. I just don't think he liked From A View to a Kill,
Yeah.
and to go out on that as well. So I think,
Yeah, I think there seems to be a curse with the Bonds as well, that every final film seems to be a bit of a dud, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the thing that happens.
Brosnan's a key one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Daniel's one's controversial, we'll get on that in a minute, but I would say that's probably along the similar lines, that it isn't their best film, and I think it just goes to show after a time. But yeah, I mean, could he have slid down on a cello case, maybe? It would have been a bit difficult for the stunts, but
they were adapted.
it would have been adapted, yeah.
John
Yeah.
would have adapted.
I mean, obviously, I think Cubby would have kept anything to have Roger off another film. But I think Roger said, you know, time's up, and new era, really, after that. So let's move on to the next topic.
So where should the films go after the No Time to Die? Personally for me, I think we need to get a youngish actor, probably late 20s, early 30s, maybe go back to the 40s, 50s, sign up to a 3, maybe 4 film deal, and just take it back to basics, I think, really. Maybe a bit darker, perhaps. And then obviously you've got a new generation of younger people to be introduced to Bond. So yeah, I reckon that's probably where we would go. Matt?
Yeah, it's a tough one because what do you do? I mean, they've dug themselves in a pretty big hole because they've just killed off every single major character. Has everyone seen it, by the way? because if you have that.
What happens again, Matt?
Yeah, it's a good ending. It's a happy ending. So, you know, where do you go from there? I just think they'll just forget the era ever existed. I think they'll just go, right, Bond's on a mission, and it won't be his first mission. I don't think it'll be his last. It'll just carry on. It'll just be Bond in a new place, new time, new person. But I think it will have to be lighter because you've had a dark kind of era with Daniel. I think if you then continue down that path, it just becomes the same. So I think they're going to change it. I don't think it'll be massive. I don't think they'll go back to the Roger Moore times, but I think it'll kind of be more of a mixture, kind of a compromise between Brosnan and Daniel Craig, where you've got a little bit more lighter tones.
Do you think we should have more gadgets introduced? A bit like Q-Lab.
You could be, but it
Yeah.
depends if they're obviously not. Where do you go with the gadgets? Because like we said earlier, like the advances in technology, how far do you look into the future? So it's going to be interesting. But I just think they need to just make a Bond film, just make one, because it's dragging on a bit now. There's all this talk about obviously Alan Taylor-Johnson. So my view on that is that there's 2 options that's going to happen. Basically, one, he's got the role, and someone at Eon wanted to make some money, so they've obviously spilled it to the papers. It's gone wild. Or 2, it was a publicity stunt because he was releasing his film Fall Guy, wasn't he? At the time that went out. So there's 2. It's a double-edged sword. We're not going to know until possibly a few months, maybe James Bond Day, which is 5th of October. So potentially they could announce a new Bond there. Daniel Craig was announced, I think, on the October. I think it was the 15th of October, maybe back in 05. So possibly we could get something else. But I just think they need to make a Bond film because we're waiting far too long for another one. And I think it just needs to be whoever it is in the role, whatever it is, just needs to get behind it and enjoy it. I think is the main thing, and hopefully they continue making them. So, what's everyone's opinions on this? After No Time to Die, what should they do?
I'd love Craig back, but
Yeah,
he might come back.
I think
Well-
Barbara wants him back as well.
But
you'd have to try and pick up the pieces. I mean, I think one of the sad things about that for me, I just think James Bond dying was just something that just, you know, never happens. You don't see that
What are
happen.
they going to do next? It's
Yeah,
it's a
I mean-
complete mystery, isn't it?
Personally, I you know, you always think he's going to make it. And I think there's a novelty in the fact that he has died. It is a novelty, you know. Oh yeah, killed him off, great. But he's James Bond, you know. How can you survive Doctor No, Goldfinger, all of them cool villains, all of them laser tables and sharks and piranhas and all that, and just get killed off by like just an injection? It's a bit rubbish, isn't it? So it's a tough one, but
Don't
yeah.
you think it was like the Batman arc for Christopher Nolan? So you've got the arc of Daniel Craig's era, and like you say, it'll go back.
Yeah.
But the problem you've got is appeasing everyone. Do you go back to the jokes, or do you go back to
Agreed.
the
Yeah.
dramas? And also, you've got to talk about society now.
Yeah.
Yes, of
Will they
course.
get away with the stuff that they get away with now?
Oh,
Exactly. So I think it's a
Yeah,
fine line
it is a
between
fine
what
line.
you have.
even in View to a Kill, there's a few lines like that.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I think something you can't change is the character. Bond is a womanizer, and I think that, I mean, you know, he's not made out to be a role model of any sort because he kills people for a living, but yeah, I think they kind of dodged a few things like that in No Time to Die, like you said. There was a lot more less kind of him going off with the girls, it was kind of more them in charge than him. So I'm not sure how that would, I would like to see a female villain again. So I think we've had one female villain out of over 60 years of Bond, and The World's Not Enough is actually one of my favourite films, but Sophie Marceau played a fantastic villain in that, and what a great twist. And I think we need that kind of happening again, so I'd like to see a female villain. That would definitely change with the times. But like you say, I think there needs to be a balance. You can't just chuck jokes in for the sake of it. There has to be a reason behind it. Like, obviously, Daniel had some great one-liners.
Oh, indeed.
You know,
When you first met Q
yeah,
in the gallery.
yeah. Exactly, and I thought the great line in No Time to Die, I thought it's one of the highlights is when Naomi takes him back and she takes off the hairpiece and goes, oh, that's not the first thing I thought you'd take off. I thought that was a great line. Another way of getting around them sort of situations as well. So, anyone else got any ideas?
I think Aaron Taylor-Johnson could bring something new to it, I think.
He could do, if he's Bond, it's not official yet, so we don't know. I mean,
Who's your pick?
my pick. Oh, well, this is it. I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't be disappointed with him because I think he fits the bill. He's kind of athletic. He's a good actor. He's not, I would say, a famously well-known person, but obviously he's been in some prominent roles. I would say I would like to see Henry Cavill take the role because I just think he looks like a Bond, and I think he'll do a good job. He's physical enough, and he screen tested for Bond when Daniel had the role. He came second, so he was runner-up. So if you go back to the Pierce Brosnan era, the Roger Moore era, obviously John Glenn screen tested Brosnan for Living Daylights. Last minute deal, Remington Steele was announced as optional. They extended the contracts, and Pierce couldn't do Living Daylights. So technically, Pierce could have done 7 films or more. So do they have that in their pocket and go, right, you know, let's give it to Henry because we've seen it, we know what we can do. Well, I honestly think that it may be a little bit too late for him because he's now at 40. I think COVID played a big role in deciding who's going to be the next Bond. If COVID hadn't come along, No Time to Die would have been released in 2019. We would have had a new Bond film out by now, and then maybe a different Bond. So it's one way or another.
And the other thing to add here is that obviously Amazon now have a stake in the Bond films. Does
Yeah.
anyone think that a series would be good? TV series, no?
No.
Films, standalone films. That's what
Yeah.
I want.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I think that's what Ian are going to do. I think that's the problem with Amazon.
They've just done Lord of the Rings, a new TV series.
I mean, if you look at Star Wars, how crazy has that got? You know, I can't keep up with it. I don't even know how many series there are now. It's too much, so much produced, and it kind of loses that novelty. With a Bond film, you've got that kind of special event every few years where everyone watches it. It's a very family-orientated film. There's a lot of children in the room as well. And I'm going to pose a question here to all the children as well. Do you like James Bond, and what was the first Bond film you've seen? I'll ask you first.
Well, I think it's a very good franchise, and it's up there in like top film franchises with Star Wars and all the others. And my first Bond film was, well, I like to do stuff in chronological order, so
Oh, look at this.
I started with Doctor No all the way
Wow,
down.
wow, yes. Round of applause for that. I just watched six, to be honest. Well, I should have saw it now. Look at that, fantastic. So, what did you think? Because that is an interesting first Bond film to see, because it's aged very well. It still looks a really good Bond film. You know, for a sort of film that's made over 60 years ago, it looks terrific. But what was your general thoughts? Because compared to the films of today, what did you think? Was you hooked immediately, or did it take a little bit longer?
Well, I enjoyed it because it isn't like a comedy movie and it isn't a thriller movie. It's a bit of both, and it mixes the comedy with the horror very well.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So, what's your favourite Bond film at the moment? You've watched them all, I guess.
I would have to say Goldfinger's a very, very good.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah,
Good
good
choice.
60th anniversary as well this year,
Yeah,
so good
definitely.
choice.
And that's refreshing to hear that, because obviously a lot of people would probably say Daniel Craig film because it's more recent. So hats off to you. Yeah, very impressed with that. Thank you. Any other children in the room want to share? There's a few. Maybe they're leaving now. Okay. Well, what's your name? Sorry.
Jackson.
Jackson. Thank you, Jackson. Appreciate that. So one of the things I'm going to get onto as well is that Bond is a family event. You know, I got into Bond because my dad said, look, you've got to watch these films. They're amazing, you know. And basically it was a father and son thing, and he'd shown me a film, and after I watched some of the Sean Connery films, that was it, I was hooked. I had watched them every week, and that was when they was doing weekly showings on ITV. You have to wait till the next week to get the next one. Not like now where they're on ITV4 every day, you know, pretty much. But they're cut to pieces and all the rest of it.
That was 007 Heaven time.
Well, that's when I watched it in '99 when they did the 00 Heaven. It's the first time I think they played all the Bond films back to back, one week after another. I think that started in May or June. It was the summer of '99. I remember that. I remember watching them, and after that, getting the videos and then watching all the films. But it is a family thing. I think it passes on generation to generation. I think everyone in this room, I would have a guess at someone in your family showed you a Bond film first, or it was a family event. Was there anyone in this room that just decided to watch a Bond film and got hooked a different way? Or did everyone pretty much go for the same route?
Cinema. Mine was Boy Eyes Only in '81. And I think my dad liked the film so much that the car chase was stayed in again. So I think in those days, films were shown on repeat with a 20-minute gap, whereas now it's in and out. In those days, it was easy just to stay with it, watch a bit more. But yeah, I think obviously helped the TV stations back in those days, sort of the late 70s, early 80s, were Christmas Day was the Bond film day. If you remember those, if you're old enough.
Yeah, bank holiday bonds as well.
Holiday Bonds, exactly.
It's always raining, so you have to put something out. So, what we're going to do now, we're just going to talk about what we do as an organisation. So, Shaken Not Stirred was created 5 years ago, and we started off doing small get-togethers. So, we created a Facebook group, Shaken Not Stirred, the World of James Bond, and we just talk about Bond. Put pictures up, it still exists today, it's still online, and then we started to get a few more requests. We did walking tours in London, so we started going to location tours, taking people on them, and then we started to do events. Our first event was in, testing me now, 2019?
2019 at the Riverside Bar.
The Riverside Bar. We had Terence Mountain here.